On the city's highest hill, his Nonko's mansion shone like a mirror of money. Inside it a single sound had been banned for 2 years, a child's laugh. Adora sat in a carved wheelchair by the veranda, a kingfisher of a girl with small, solemn hands, watching other children like ghosts through the iron gate. The doctors had left with folded brows, prayers had been paid in gold and silence. In the alleys below, Ifeanyi danced to survive. His feet were stories, his ribs stained drums. That noon, hunger led him to the mansion's broken wall. He peered through a hole and saw Adora like a statue that once wanted to sing. He slipped inside, a barefoot comet, and began to move raw, odd steps that smelled of dust and rain. Adora startled, then a smile cracked her face like sunrise. She laughed for the first time since the truck. Laughter echoed through halls that had forgotten the sound, guards froze, chandeliers trembled. Ease heard it and thundered down the stairs. Suspicion baked into his stride. He ordered the boy seized. Adora stood between them, small and fierce. He healed me with his feet. Let him stay. The door slammed and a secret watched from the shadows. Isa's voice shook like a gong. Mercy and fear argued in his face as he named Ifeanyi a trespasser. Ifeanyi told his story without pomp, plague, loss, bread crust, the old lullaby his mother hummed, the song of the river. Adora's palms found his dust-worn ones and would not let go. Her laugh had become gravity. The house agreed reluctantly the boy would sleep beneath the same roof, a blanket tasted of impossibility. In the servants' quarters, whispers braided with envy, the head butler spat a proverb about storms and strangers. That night Ifeanyi dreamt of a river woman who braided moons into his hair and sang, "Your steps are promised to someone." He woke with a wetness on his palm and a small, carved charm tucked there, a fish the color of memory. Adora woke too, and for the first time she drew a map of how she would run again. It began with Ifeanyi's wrist. Outside, market drums beat, a messenger of rumor. Word leaked of a miracle and a household split. Is, watching his daughter count toes in the morning light, felt something older than money stir, obligation, and a dread that the charm might bite back. Ifeanyi danced each dawn. Adora practiced standing, hips trembling like a reed learning wind. Neighbors gathered, mothers held children close, old men touched their neck beads and whispered about old bargains. A woman with silver hair and a half-moon scar, Mama Obianuju, teller of small truths, watched from the crowd with both eyes bright. She knelt and pressed her palm to Ifeanyi's feet. Her breath was a bell. These are not ordinary souls. That afternoon Adora felt a twitch in her toes. A tremor of possibility moved through the house like ants. A visiting doctor frowned, then laughed like a child at a trick. The city smelled of wonder and fear. A carved figure appeared on the gate overnight, a tiny, black mask whose grin made the guards shiver. Rumors swelled into a river priest, reporters, thieves all wanted a sip of the miracle. Ifeanyi found the fish charm gone and on his chest a shallow, crescent scar he had never noticed. When night fell, the scar glowed faint as an ember and someone across the river lit a blue candle in answer. Mama Obianuju came to the mansion with cola and a story. Gifts that open doors must also close them. She spat into her palm and read lines like roads. The dancer carries a debt, she said, voice low as a drum. Ifeanyi laughed off omens. He could not name the weather his feet made, only that Adora's smile was born. Is, restless, visited the family shrine and touched a ledger hidden under a prayer mat. Names, dates, a thin silence. In the market a woman called Nkechi, a street player who had once danced for coins, felt her audience stolen and her heart hardened. That night, a shadow slipped into Ifeanyi's dream and whispered riddles about rivers that take what they give. Adora woke with a bruise of fear behind her laughter. She had dreamed of 2 girls drowning and of hands pulling them out. The mansion's elder, Chief Nduka, demanded ritual, a kola, a libation, and truth before the ancestors. As they prepared the offerings, a page from the ledger fluttered open to a name that made Isa's teeth ache with memory. When the libation spilled on the courtyard stone, steam rose like fingers and the fish charm around Ifeanyi's neck snapped in two. The broken charm left a black dust on Ifeanyi's shirt. With it came voices in his head singing a woman's lullaby. He stood with the ledger open and remembered a farm, a fire, a promise he had signed with a younger hand and more hunger. Ifeanyi followed the lullaby to the old servant's trunk and found a photograph of a woman whose hands matched his. In one corner of the picture, almost erased, was a house with a carved door, the same door on the ledger's first page. Eudora watched him hold the photo as if remembering could mend what had been burned. Nkechi's jealousy cuddled into plan. She bribed the boy to steal Ifeanyi's shoes and break a toe. The theft failed. Instead, the shoes left a trail of lime and market gossip that led straight to Ifeanyi's childhood lane. That lane smelled of tobacco and grief. An old woman there hummed the same lullaby and called Ifeanyi by a name he had forgotten. The name ripped something open inside his. The ledger was not just paper but a map to a wound. As dust bled, Ifeanyi stood where the burned door house had been and found under the ash a charred talisman with his mother's name carved on it. Nkechi's face was thunder, her performances frayed without Ifeanyi's new magic stealing light from the market. She stirred a crowd with rumors that the mansion's joy was witchcraft dressed in laughter. Servants swapped looks, old loyalties cracked like dry cola. In the square a public challenge was declared, a dance-off at the moon market prizes, a calabash of silver and a river's favor. Ifeanyi agreed to dance, believing only in steps and Edora's smile. He ordered guards to protect his new son. The moon market glowed, drums roared like thunder in a bottle. Nkechi's troops circled like wolves. Midway through Ifeanyi's set, the air tasted of iron. Eudora clapped until her palms were sore. A trick, someone threw a shard of glass near Ifeanyi's foot. He stumbled and Edora's face lost color. She slumped, breath shallow, as if her walking had been a thread and someone had pinched it. The crowd gasped. Under the moon, Ifeanyi realized his dance might be more than a gift. It might be the string that held Eudora upright. Doctors hovered, Edora's breath chopped like a fisherman's net. The doctors could not name the thief that had stolen her strength. Ifeanyi blamed himself and cut his steps down to whispers. Without his storm she folded inward. Mama Obianuju declared the wound was not of flesh but of bargain. Where a miracle works, a balance waits. He drove to the river to speak with the palm reader who braided hair into answers. The reader warned of a tide that returns what it was given. In the nursery, Eudora dreamed of two dancers sharing a single heartbeat. In her dream she offered Ifeanyi a bead and he gave her a memory. Ifeanyi found his voice thin. When he sang, the words slotted like old keys and failed to open anything. Traders who once cheered now watched with folded arms, counting the cost in silence. A village seer arrived and placed 3 white feathers on Edora's pillow as a test. If they stayed, the bargain would hold. The feathers trembled, then sank into the mattress like leaves through water. The seer's eyes were twin knives. That night Ifeanyi woke to a river calling his true name, a name he recognized with a flare of grief and denial. Ifeanyi followed the call and walked barefoot to the river where fishermen left nets like prayers. Moonlight turned the water to ink. A reed boat waited though no one had rowed it. Mommy Aya came to the water's edge in a ripple of wrinkles and laughter. Her voice smelt of wet stone. She told Ifeanyi that dance was a bridge and every bridge borrowed breath from both sides. Ifeanyi asked how to unborrow. The goddess answered with a riddle that tasted of salt and iron. Back home, he found the ledger again and traced a name he had once sworn he'd never say aloud. Eudora, fevered, began to walk in her sleep and hum a tune Ifeanyi could only finish by night. The city's council heard of the river's mamas and debated whether to bless or banish the miracle. A letter arrived. An old village claimed Ifeanyi as blood, signed with a hand is recognized, the same hand that had signed for a farm years ago. Ifeanyi, returning with wet hems and a new question, found his shoes gone and a single wet footprint leading to the servant's door. The letter named a village across the delta and a woman called Nonibiuf who swore Ifeanyi as her grandson. Isa's face emptied and refilled with memory, a land dispute, a hunger-driven sale, a promise he'd broken to keep his wealth. Ifeanyi felt a strange not kinship that tasted like ozone and onion and wondered if his feet had roots beyond the city. Nkechi's whispers turned to howls. He is no miracle, he is claim staff, she cried. The council demanded documents. the village elders produced a brass bell with the same carved fish as ifeanyi's lost charm. Is realized the ledger's oldest entries listed names of tenants whose lands had been swallowed by his family's expansion. Ifeanyi, told he might have kin, felt both relief and a burning question: did the miracle make him into someone else's property? Edeora, who had learned to stand a step each day, said quietly, "Family is not only paper." That night the mansion's walls creaked as if reading. In the dark, a figure scratched the ledger page, a new signature that belonged to no living hand. When dawn came, the city's river ran a thin ribbon of red and the council's sails trembled like frightened birds. News spread. The river's water turned red at dawn. Fishermen pulled up nets heavy with rust and old teeth. Mothers stopped giving children river water. Drums beat a slow caution. He called a meeting and confessed a debt he'd hidden. During expansion his men had dynamited a sacred spring and a family had lost both land and a child. The council's elders listened, faces like smoked gods. Restitution was demanded, land returned, a public apology, a night of cleansing. Ifeanyi, hearing how his mother's name had been written on the ledger, felt grief like a drum tighten inside his chest. Edeora, who could now take 3 unsteady steps, helped fold apology cloths and practice speaking into a crowd. Nkechi, seeing is humbled, shifted from hunger to ambition. She sought favor with the river priest to seize the moment. Mama Obianuju warned Ifeanyi, when blood stains water, a spirit will ask for a counterbalance. That night, in the courtyard, a child from the market fell into a ditch and vanished. A shoe floated down the street like a white question. Ifeanyi's chest hurt not from running but from a sudden knowing. The miracle's ledger had rows left unpaid, and the next due was marked with his name.